Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share yet another update on my experience with the HP Spectre X360 13T. You can see I've got it right here, and for those of you that have followed my coverage, welcome back to the show. So let's start off with the good news. This custom-built 13T, again, Intel Ice Lake 10th Gen, 1065 G7 powering this, 16 gigs of RAM. I did select the 2 terabyte NVMe option. That is the largest capacity drive that you can get on this machine presently. And by the way, you can upgrade that on your own if you choose to do so, but it is a labor intensive process that I don't think is worth the squeeze, simply because in order to remove or gain access to where you need to in order to replace the NVMe, you have to rip off the rubber feet on the bottom of the machine, and that's just a mess. Now, I'm not saying it can't be done and done neatly, but I think the average consumer is not going to want to get involved with that. So again, I went with the 2 terabyte. The total price after tax and just essentially having HP price match their own internal price reductions, because they do have a 30-day policy, and this was direct, again, because of the 2 terabyte NVMe. And for those of you also that have followed, I went to the silver color. The total damage was around, I think, somewhere close to $1,800. But if you go on any given day, it will be over $2,000 after tax, at least where it was when I originally ordered this machine, which is a lot for an Ultrabook. No dedicated graphics, but the Iris Plus will get the job done for the majority of tasks in my case, and that includes 4K video editing as well as photo editing. So, and that's with now I'm onto the A7R4. And as I mentioned at the top, the good news is I don't have QC problems. Everything works as it should. I have not had any issues to mention or speak of in any form or fashion. So I've got my machine here. I'm not done, of course, with my comparisons to the C940. I am bringing that back because, believe it or not, that machine is being kept too, except it's going to a family member. I'm not going to be keeping it. And that's because I do think that the C940, for someone who isn't looking for what I am, it really is the best Ultrabook out there other than this machine. And another thing I want to point out about the silver finish here is that it does do a much better job dealing with fingerprints. As much as I could try to make this look gross, it's not happening. And basically every other Ultrabook that I've reviewed this year has been a dirty stain of fingerprints at the end of the day. The only other one was the C940 in the mica color. So that's another plus to going with the silver, the natural silver, which is the base configuration. No extra money needs to be spent. And I think it just, from an aesthetic standpoint, is personally, I think it's much better than any of the other color coordinations that HP offers. But it's nice that they offer them so that if you do want the blue, which is nice, or the dark ash silver, also nice, they're out there and they're good options, and the two-tone may be your thing. I really like that this is a uniform machine. I think it actually even lends to looking like it's built better mentally for me. So, but overall, love this machine. I've been doing now I've shifted over to doing all of my editing on here on the go. Of course, I still have my desktop right to the left of me right now while I'm filming, which is a custom built system that's actively, has liquid cooling. So I'm not dumping that. And of course, the GTX 2080 Ti I have in there is not going to be matched by anything, but I can always pull the 2080 Ti out of there and use it as a GPU for this, which is a nice option. And who knows, I may start making this my daily driver and docking it and connecting it to my dual monitor setup. We'll see. But for right now, just from a laptop Ultrabook standpoint, I am incredibly pleased with this. I will do a full review, but I know a lot of you have been asking just for an update, like what is going on with the third silver wonder from HP, and it's fantastic. And I've been weighing it against a lot of other machines. Again, if you followed my coverage, you know I've got a lot of machines in-house, but this really, between the OLED, it's not just that it's 4K. I mean, it is as close to perfect as you're going to get on a display at present in this form factor especially. And when I look at what this does, I mean, the only thing I could criticize is that I wish there was a little bit more I/O on this machine, but I/O has gone the way of the dodo since Apple started the trend of eliminating ports, and they've done it professionally. And unfortunately, manufacturers have followed. The only one in my mind that hasn't given up on that is Vio, which ironically rhymes with I/O. And they make sure of it. I mean, you don't have to worry about having ports. But because we've got a micro SD card slot on here, and I've got a 1 terabyte micro SanDisk Extreme card on the way, which I don't plan on using that as storage, but if I ever wanted to throw that in there, get this up to 3 terabytes, I think that's pretty good. And then I certainly have enough mobile NVMEs, like the SanDisk that just came in. I have the Sabrent. So I've got a lot of options on mobile NVMEs to support this, because I don't really want to load up the 2 terabyte on here. And that's another thing. I should have mentioned this closer to the beginning, but if you watch my videos, you know they're not scripted. The 2 terabyte drive in here, a lot of questions about that. I benchmarked that. It is a Toshiba drive, and it's top notch. So I got, a little concerned when it wasn't Samsung, but I already know Toshiba's lineage in filling the gap for mass production, and their drives generally are very good. I mean, even when they purchased OCZ, which used to be notorious for corrupt as well as the fastest drives on the market, they took that brand and revamped it. I mean, I haven't looked at it lately, but again, benchmarking the 2 terabyte NVMe in here, I got over 3,000 on the read and well over 2,000 on write. So I think that's very good for what could have been suspect. So I'm happy with that. And again, no build quality issues. So it can be done, folks. If you're wondering, can you get a star from HP? You can. Now, on the note of whether or not it's worth it to go through this, that's really going to come down to your patience threshold, right? I mean, I go through enough electronics that I will go the distance in some cases, because this is the first laptop that I am picking up for myself in a long time. It was worth going the distance on. And but generally speaking, I don't think most consumers can go through that. And if they can, I don't know how much they'll begin to resent the product. That's inevitable, I think. But I'm really happy. The only flaw that this machine has, and it was across all of my units, speaker performance. A lot of content will get blown out, Tinny Speakers. So be aware. I'm sorry this wasn't more of a demo and you're looking at a static screen here, but really the ultimate value, the purpose of this was to update people who have been serially watching my coverage of this machine. And I don't sugarcoat anything. I don't call this an honest review, because quite frankly, when people say honest or let me be honest, well, that lends itself to being dishonest. I'm honest about everything that I put on the channel, whether I think something's great or a piece of crap, and whether or not it's worth the money. And I think that if you can get one of these machines, and it does check all the boxes for you right now, and do it at a reasonable price, because, the i5 is on sale all the time from HP Direct for very little money. By very little, I mean under $1,000. I've seen it for $899 on 2 different occasions already. So granted, no OLED, but even making those upgrades, they've put the version that's similar to the one at Best Buy, which Best Buy did drop the price finally back to $14.99. Congrats. So they pumped it before they dumped it for the holiday. Shocking. But the HP comparable build that's ready to ship has a 0.5 terabyte, the same Intel SSD that the Best Buy version, but in silver, and that has routinely been at $12.49 also. So you do not need to break the bank to get a great machine. And quite frankly, most of you out there, if you get this config with that 0.5 terabyte, no, you can always buy something like this. You can buy something like that. I mean, I don't want to scratch the machine with that. It sounded like it was not great. But you can do that. You can pick up the Sabrent, which I think is really better than both of these. And then all of a sudden, you're glutton for storage here. And the Sabrent, even though it's brand spanking new, has already been on sale for $100 in the past. So I imagine we'll see this on sale again. So don't harp too much on your storage. I hope none of these drives scratch this thing. But again, you're going to see, not crazy on the fingerprints. I love it. So not an expected thing, by the way. When I looked at the silver color, when I initially liked it, none of that was predicated on, how dirty or gross the machine was going to look. But this matte silver, natural silver finish, it's just great. And I do really love the way things look in terms of the sides as well. The two-tone's nice, but I like uniformity. I'm a fan of that. Two-tone has its place, and here I really wanted something uniform, and I just think this is a much cleaner machine. Now, I've said throughout the course of my coverage that the other machine grew on me. I'm about to ship it back, and I do like it. It did grow on me, the dark ash silver with the gold finish, the rose gold, but as much as it grew on me, this is still my preference. And the fact that I don't have QC issues. I may end up doing a side-by-side of these two, but just for all intents and purposes now, I'll just do it here so that you get that side-by-side. I'm creating a new language for all of you linguists. And, you start to see the difference. And I think people can form their own preference just based on seeing this. So if you don't see them in store side-by-side, you're seeing them here side-by-side. And again, both really nice, but I am more prone to go with something a little more professional, less, ostentatious. I would go borderline, this is a little bit gaudy. So not for me, but I know a lot of you love it. This is not a knock against people who think that this is the better color scheme. Everybody should get the color they want. Just speaking to my own personal preference, I think this is going to do better in an office. That's not to say this can't be in an office. Of course it can. I still think this is a really, really nice differentiating factor from traditional laptops where things are pretty plain Jane or just plain. So I did go with the plain. Call me boring, I guess, but that's my own personal preference. But both of them are great. Now, whether or not the quality control issues a lot of people have asked, I think pertain to a specific color, I don't. That's not the way manufacturing generally works. It's far more likely that this initial batch of machines that Best Buy received just have a QC issue. So I think that if you got, one of these today, you probably would not have that issue. It's a matter of how quickly the first distributed run ends up moving out into consumers' hands. And so when I did my swap at Best Buy and got another machine with the exact same problem, it's very likely that they share that problem because they were in the same batch. And those batches can be allotted at all different sorts of numbers per shipment and distribution. So fulfillment is really more of what's going to determine whether or not you get the QC issue. Because this was custom built, yeah, I didn't have the problems. So you can, I don't want to put weight in the ideology that if you go custom built, you won't have a QC issue, because I still think it's complete bad luck. It's just a matter of the margin of error. And this goes for all manufacturers. None of the machines that I have been covering are perfect in terms of quality control. The Lenovo C940 is certainly better, but far from perfect. I have it right here. It has developed some issues of its own, which is why I want to get back to covering it. There it is. And you can see the color scheme different. The mica is a warmer color than the natural silver. Hopefully that comes through on this. But it is clearly a warmer color. They have the iron gray for that. And this does feel better built, but part of that isn't just its construction, it's the actual weight of the machine and physical footprint. So again, luck of the draw on QC, but if you love what they've put together, like I do, I think it's worth getting, in the mix and finding the sweet spot. So far, silver's working out great. I haven't had it that long yet, so the final review, as I've always said, will come with the machine I keep. This I'm now going to ship back to HP where it belongs and move on from there with my new hotness on the left. And really, it's hard for me to look at other laptops and even understand why people are game for other machines, considering everything this can do and at the price point. Because I said, you do not need to go with the Big Willie build on this. The price of entry with an OLED is a little over $1,000, and I think that's fantastic. I told you $1,250 on sale regularly. So nowhere else will you find a machine like that. I will eventually do a roundup, probably one video talking about all the machines at once that I've covered. But for now, again, this was the update, my update on my personal experience with the HP Spectre. Glad I stuck with it. Those of you that encouraged me, thanks. Believe it or not, did mean something to see that, everyone wasn't like, just throw that thing in the garbage where it belongs. And I'm glad I stuck with it. I haven't had an HP laptop in a long time. And to have one now that's got great battery life, beautiful display, solid performance, both in terms of its processor and even the integrated Iris Plus, being able to do light gaming. These are things that I have waited for a machine like this to exist. And the good news is it finally does. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.